Okay, just take a second and think about your smartphone. Chances are it's right there, maybe even in your hand. You might actually be listening to this on it right now. I mean, from waking us up to navigating traffic, connecting with people, ordering food, these little things are, well, they're completely tangled up in our daily lives. We really lean on them. But have you ever stopped to think about the sheer money behind it all? The global smartphone market. It's not just big.
Yeah.
It's this massive economic force. So today we're doing a deep dive. We're looking into the financial heartbeat of this whole industry. We've got this detailed forecast here. It's from cognitive market research called Global Smartphone Market Revenue Forecast to 2033. And our goal, basically, to unpack the numbers, figure out where the big growth is happening, and just get a handle on where this huge industry is headed. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, and what's really insightful, I think, is that we're looking at revenue, not just how many phones are shipped.
Yeah.
Because those revenue figures, they show us much deeper things about, economic shifts, how we, the consumers, are behaving around the world. It's a story about huge scale, really. And revenue tells you so much about global demand and just how deeply technology is embedded now.
That's a really important point. Revenue, not just units. So, okay, let's start big picture, global view. Back in 2021, the global market revenue was just over $448 billion. But here's where it gets pretty striking. That number is projected to climb to nearly $577 billion by 2025. And then, get this, almost $954 billion by 2033. That's not just steady growth, that's driven by a pretty strong compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 6.5% between 2025 and 2033.
Right. And thinking about what that 6.5% CAGR means over almost 10 years, for a market that's already enormous, it tells you this is really robust, sustained expansion. It's not some flash in the pan. It signals, constant innovation, adoption happening across all sorts of different groups of people, and just this ongoing global reliance on being connected mobily. It's a powerful economic sign, really, of how smartphones have become, essential.
Exactly. These aren't just numbers floating around somewhere. For you listening, they reflect this worldwide commitment to mobile connection that honestly affects everyone, whether you're buying a phone, making an app, or just, using your phone day to day.
Okay, so the global trend is strong growth. But like you said, the really interesting stuff often lies underneath that and the regional differences. This is where it gets fascinating, comparing how different parts of the world are doing. Who's really driving this? Precisely. And when you break it down regionally, Asia Pacific really jumps out. It's the powerhouse right now, and all signs point to it leading the way in the future, too. So in 2021, Asia Pacific brought in over $160 billion in revenue, but the forecast, it's set to hit a massive $360 billion by 2033. And that's with the highest regional CGR, over 7.1%. So clearly, a huge chunk, maybe even a disproportionate chunk of global growth is coming from there. And you have to ask why, right? Well, it's likely things like a fast-growing middle class, skipping over older tech straight to mobile, and really intense competition between local phone makers driving prices down,
Yeah.
making them more accessible.
Okay, wow, over 7% CGGR there.
Yeah. Now compare that. North America, still a huge market, right? Over $131 billion in 2021. But its projected CGR is a bit lower, steady, but around 6.1%. Europe was at nearly $93 billion back in 2021 with a 6.3% CGR forecast. So these are more, let's say, mature markets. Good, solid growth, definitely, but not that sort of explosive acceleration you see in Asia Pacific.
Right, mature markets. Makes sense.
Then you look at other spots. South America actually shows quite strong growth, a 6.7% CAGR. It's expected to go from about $24.6 billion up to nearly $63 billion by 2033. And then you have the Middle East and Africa. They're growing too, definitely, but at a slightly slower pace compared to the global average. We're talking KGRs around 5% for the Middle East and maybe 5.5% for Africa, which, it raises that interesting question. What specific things are driving these different speeds of growth in different regions?
That is a great question. And for you listening, it makes you wonder, is it purely economics or is it more about, cultural factors, how quickly people adopt tech, or even just the state of the infrastructure in those places? Okay, let's go even deeper then, because you said within these big regions, the individual countries also tell their own stories. That gives us a much clearer picture of economic health and tech adoption country by country.
Absolutely. You zoom into Asia Pacific, and China and India are just undeniable growth engines. China is predicted to go from over $61 billion in 2021 to almost $144 billion by 2033. That's a CAGR of 7.7%.
Yeah.
Really strong. And India. Just as impressive. A very similar CAGR, about 7.6%, is projected to grow from nearly 28 billion to over 67 billion. So those two alone, they account for a massive slice of the region's growth.
Huge numbers from just those two.
Exactly. Then you have Japan, still a big market, but growing a bit more moderately, around 6.6% CGR.
Yeah.
And places like Australia show a lower CGR, maybe 5.1%. It suggests, different levels of market saturation, different consumer habits.
Okay, what about...
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
It suggests, different levels of market saturation, different consumer habits.
Okay, what about North America then?
Well, in North America, the U.S. is clearly the dominant player. It's projected to basically double its revenue from over $102 billion in 2021 to over $203 billion by 2033. Interestingly, Canada actually shows a slightly higher CGR. Just a bit, maybe suggesting it's slightly less saturated or seeing faster uptake in some areas.
And Europe, you mentioned variations there too.
Yet Europe's quite mixed. Germany stands out, strong growth, a 6.7% CGR projected. But then you contrast that with, say, Italy, which has the lowest forecast CGR in Europe, around 5.2%. But here's something interesting. The category Rest of Europe, which often includes Eastern European nations, actually has the highest projected CAGR in Europe, over 7.1%.
Oh, wow. So lots of potential there, perhaps.
Suggests exactly that. Maybe untapped potential, faster adoption kicking in now in those markets. And quickly, South America, Brazil is the clear leader there. Robust growth, nearly 7% CGR, really driving the mobile shift on that continent. And just to touch on emerging markets, Nigeria is a key driver for Africa's growth, while Saudi Arabia plays a similar role in the Middle East, even if their overall regional CAGRs are a bit lower.
Okay, so bringing all these country details together, what's the takeaway? What does this mean for, say, business strategies or where investment might go or just how tech rolls out at that local level? For you listening, I think these specific numbers really paint a picture, don't they? A picture of how diverse the economic energy and sort of tech readiness is across different nations. It's complex, but really compelling. Right, so let's try and wrap this up a bit. Our deep dive into this forecast, the global smartphone market revenue forecast to 2033. It clearly shows a market that's set for really big, sustained growth. It's always moving, isn't it? And it's powerfully driven by certain key regions and countries, even though their individual growth speeds really vary. It's a dynamic global picture.
Absolutely. And stepping back for a broader view, these huge revenue numbers, they're not just about selling more phones. They really signify this fundamental change in how we all connect, how we buy things, how we get information globally. And this growth, it fuels innovation everywhere else, too. Think about e-commerce, digital health, transport, entertainment. So many industries increasingly depend on everyone having that mobile connection.
Yeah, the ripple effects are huge. So here's something to maybe mull over as we finish. A final thought for you listening. Given these really dramatic shifts we're seeing in revenue and which regions are dominating, how might the smartphone itself change by 2033? Could it become even more central to our lives, maybe take on totally new forms or functions we haven't even thought of? And crucially, how could that impact your daily life or maybe even open up new career paths or opportunities? It's worth thinking about those wider effects of all this tech growth.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're pulling out some really fascinating insights about, well, a device most of us spend a ton of time with, our smartphones. It's a market that feels incredibly familiar, right? But it's actually surprisingly complex once you start peeling back the layers.
That's absolutely right. And our mission today is really to go beyond just the headlines. We want to sift through the information in our source material. We're looking for those essential nuggets, those key takeaways to help you understand what's really driving growth, what the big hurdles are, and the really compelling future trends shaping this industry. Because it is, it's quite remarkable how something so present in our lives just keeps redefining itself so quickly.
It really is. So we've gone from brick phones to these tiny pocket supercomputers in just a couple of decades. It feels almost taken for granted now. But what's actually powering this relentless pace, what keeps us, the consumers wanting the next upgrade?
Yeah, it really comes down to a potent mix. It's continuous technological breakthroughs combined with how those actually change our daily lives. Our sources point to things like, well, those incredible multi-lens camera systems, they really blur the line now between a phone camera and professional gear. And then there's 5G connectivity becoming standard, the fascinating reality of foldable displays actually working well now, and these increasingly powerful AI processors. But what's really crucial, I think, isn't just the features in isolation, it's how they all kind of converge. Like, think about how computational photography, which uses those AI chips, is turning basically every phone into a portable photo studio, or how 5G isn't just about faster downloads, it's enabling whole new things that honestly were kind of science fiction just a few years back. These aren't just tiny updates anymore, they're often significant leaps. And that genuinely compels people to upgrade for better performance, sure, but also richer media, new functions.
Okay, so it's not just the tech specs, but how that tech gets deeply sort of woven into the fabric of our lives. What about the bigger picture? Like broader societal shifts. How are those fueling the market in maybe less obvious ways?
Yeah, and that's where it gets really, really interesting. According to our sources, what's truly transformative is how smartphones aren't just facilitating digital life for some. For billions of people, they're often the only gateway to it.
The only one.
Yeah, think about it. We're seeing internet penetration grow globally, but in many emerging markets, someone's first and often only internet connection is their smartphone. They completely skip the whole desktop or laptop phase.
Right.
And this directly fuels the huge use of mobile-first apps for, well, everything. E-commerce, banking, entertainment, education, you name it. It makes the smartphone not just a convenience, but like a fundamental tool for navigating the modern world for so many.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. The smartphone is the primary digital bridge. So speaking of that global scale, is market expansion, especially into these newer territories, still a massive piece of the growth story?
Right.
Or are we starting to see ceilings in some places?
Oh, absolutely. It's crucial if we connect this to the bigger picture. Emerging markets, places like the Asia-Pacific region, Africa, Latin America, they're seeing really rapid, almost explosive growth in smartphone adoption. And it's fueled by this kind of perfect storm of factors. You've got devices becoming more affordable, reaching more people. You've got the rise of strong local brands creating real competition. And you often have governments actively pushing digital inclusion, promoting mobile broadband access to, bridge that digital divide. It's a totally different growth engine compared to, say, North America or Europe.
Okay, that paints a pretty clear picture of what's pushing things forward. But let's look at the flip side. What's holding the market back? I mean, market saturation is the obvious one, but are there other, maybe less obvious hurdles? Thinking about, like, those supply chain snarls we heard so much about, are they still a big factor? How's that hitting smartphones specifically?
Yeah, that raises a really important question because even with all that growth, there are significant
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
important question because even with all that growth, there are significant headwinds. You mentioned market saturation. That's definitely key in developed economies. North America, Europe, parts of East Asia, growth there has undeniably slowed. The market is much more reliant on replacement cycles now.
Convincing people they need the new one when the old one works fine.
Exactly. Convincing someone with a perfectly good 2-year-old phone that they need this year's model, that's a much tougher sell for manufacturers. And yes, supply chain disruptions, they have been a major restraint. We're talking about the core components, right? Semiconductors, the chips. Without enough of these tiny but absolutely vital pieces, factories just can't make enough phones. That leads directly to those frustrating out-of-stock messages or, fluctuating prices and availability we've all encountered. Plus, you add in global logistics problems, even geopolitical tensions messing with raw material supplies. It adds layers of complexity.
So getting the parts is one challenge.
Yeah.
But then there's the cost, right? The price tags on these things, especially the flagships, keep going up. How is that playing out, particularly when, honestly, mid-range phones are getting so good these days? Is there a limit to what people will pay, or is it more that the mid-range just offers amazing value now?
That's a crucial point, and it creates this really fascinating tension in the market. The rising average selling prices for those top-tier flagship models, they have created affordability issues, no doubt, especially more price-sensitive regions.
Sure.
And that often leads consumers to look very seriously at or just choose mid-range models. But it's not just about the cost anymore. Our sources suggest these mid-range phones are striking this incredibly impressive balance between performance and price. It just makes that big jump in price to a flagship maybe less compelling for a really large chunk of the market. The value you get from a mid-ranger is just really, really strong now.
Okay, so we've covered the drivers, the things pushing growth, and the hurdles, the restraints holding it back. Looking ahead now, what are the key trends really shaping the future of smartphones? What exciting things are on the horizon for these devices we depend on so much? Beyond just the next slightly faster processor or slightly better screen.
Well, one thing that's really fascinating here is the undeniable momentum building around foldable and flexible smartphones. They aren't just concepts or niche products anymore. They seem to be gaining real traction. Manufacturers are getting better at durability. They're optimizing the software experience for these, unique shapes. And they're creating genuinely innovative designs that really do combine the portability of a phone with the usability of a much larger screen. It's kind of a fundamental rethink of the device.
Yeah, those are interesting. And cameras. They've already come such an incredibly long way. I mean, I remember thinking my first smartphone camera is revolutionary, and now they do things that used to need a whole bag of professional gear. What's next there?
It is truly amazing, isn't it? Our sources really highlight how AI and computational photography have just, completely revolutionized smartphone cameras. It's gone way beyond just better lenses. These things enable incredibly powerful features like real-time scene detection, so the phone automatically adjusts settings for the perfect shot, huge improvements in low-light photos, advanced facial recognition, professional-level video stabilization. It's almost like having this tiny, really smart photo editor built right into the phone itself. It transforms them into genuinely powerful tools, not just for casual snaps, but for serious content creators, too.
And I'm also hearing more and more about sustainability. How's that trend playing out in the smartphone world? It's an industry often, criticized for its environmental impact.
Yeah, this is a really important one, and it's accelerating fast. There's definitely an increasing emphasis on sustainability and also device longevity. And it's driven by a powerful combination. Consumers are demanding it, and regulators are pushing for it, too.
Right.
So we're seeing a move towards more eco-friendly designs using recycled materials. We're seeing brands offer extended software support so phones stay usable for longer. Things like modular components, making repairs easier, and better recycling programs. Brands are really starting to integrate sustainability into their core strategies. They recognize it's not just like a nice to have anymore. It's actually crucial for their future.
Wow. Okay. It's been quite the journey today, exploring the ins and outs of the smartphone market, from that relentless push of innovation and the societal shifts that make these devices so essential, to the very real challenges like saturation and supply chain headaches. And then looking at those really exciting future trends, foldables, AI cameras, sustainability, that could genuinely redefine what a phone even is.
Absolutely. I think the big takeaway here is that smartphones, they're just going to keep evolving, often in unexpected ways. They'll become even more integral to our daily lives, while also, maybe surprisingly, starting to tackle broader concerns like that sustainability piece. It's just such a dynamic space. It never really stands still.
So here's something to think about. As these devices become potentially more capable, maybe more durable, how might our relationship with that annual upgrade cycle actually change? And looking further out, what truly new innovations beyond just a folding screen or a smarter camera might actually redefine what a smartphone can be? What could it become beyond just a screen in our hand?
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.